Iran says it will begin the process today, or it will announce to the United Nations that it will begin the process of potentially enriching more uranium. The Iran Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, told state television that essentially if the countries remaining in the Iran nuclear deal cannot reach an agreement with Iran, that Iran would start enriching more. He also added that Iran's enemies will never halt its nuclear progress, and it is their bad dream and will not happen. The United States withdrew last month from the Iran nuclear deal, and the remaining countries, Britain, France, Germany, China, and Russia, are negotiating to keep the agreement together without the United States. Shortly after President Trump withdrew from the agreement, Iran announced a list of demands it wanted if it were to continue respecting limits on its nuclear program. It wants European countries to protect its economy from expected U.S. sanctions. Iran also wants to continue its presence in places like Yemen and Syria across the Middle East, and it wants to continue developing its ballistic missiles bill.
So the Trump administration's made it clear it will not renegotiate the nuclear agreement, Rich?
Yeah, that's right. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says he wants a larger agreement. That's what the Trump administration is pushing for. It wants curbs on all those other activities: ballistic missiles, intervention across the Middle East, also Iran's nuclear program. Secretary Pompeo issued his own demands of Iran. That was last month. Essentially, he wants Iran to halt that aggressive behavior. And until then, the Trump administration says it plans to institute the harshest sanctions in history against Iran beginning this summer. Officials say they want to work with like-minded countries to contain Iran. The U.S. had been negotiating with Germany, Britain, and France to put curbs on Iran's ballistic missile program and some of its intervention around the Middle East. But those discussions essentially fell apart after the United States withdrew from the Iran nuclear agreement. So the U.S. has been engaging what it calls like-minded nations to try to build a ring around Iran to sanction it, get it to change its behavior, all with the idea of perhaps looping Iran in on a larger nuclear deal with all those other elements involved. But there's no sense it's moving towards that direction, at least not right now.
Big job, big task. Thank you, Richard Edson from the State Department. Thank you.